This is basically
nobody knows.
Yeah, this is basically just like I'm using the live stream thing just because it's easier to have like everyone on at the same time, and it automatically. Honestly, I think we should. I feel like it would be kind of useful to use this for actual episode recording too, because it just automatically puts it on YouTube. But it's a different thing. We're live and have been for 20 seconds. Hello, people who are watching this in the future. It's been a while, but in the interim, we all finished Ship of Destiny, though it's been a while for some of us. We're going to be going over it and talking about our thoughts at the end of the trilogy. It's kind of crazy to think about. When did we start Ship of Magic? The first one.
We started it in the summer of last year. So summer.
Okay, so it's been. Oh my god, it's been more than a year. Wow.
Yeah.
It took us a long time to get through this one, but there was so much stuff going on in our like personal lives. It makes sense why. Like we're just at the end.
Yeah.
So in terms of getting into Ship of Destiny, like I think I need to establish my brain like the cutoff point between the events of the previous book and the events of this book. Like where are all our characters at? Just like at the beginning. To set.
No, I think Malta and the Satrap were. They had just gotten out of the underground and they were trying to stop at Treehaug, but the river swept them downstream, and I think that's where they started.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I
know Ronica's like in Bingtown. Like
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Winch was fucking dead. Oh,
yeah, pretty much.
Right?
Yeah.
Did he just? Because at the end of the last book, he freed the serpent, right?
And then,
but then got a bunch of like.
He was
really thriving.
He was burned real bad.
Yeah, so he freed the She Who Remembers, which is like a serpent that was supposed to lead the migration, and then was captured by the others at some point on Others Island and used as an oracle for them.
Right.
Which I'm not sure, because there seems to be some like apocalypse that happened a while ago that took out the banks of the river and like the old civilization and stuff like that. Sorry, I'm getting fully derailed from my own prompt of like where are the characters at. But I'm wondering, like, did the others capture the She Who Remembers like way after the point in which like there was a whole apocalypse thing, or like somewhat at the same time? Would dragons be around if they didn't, or would they still like not have a nesting area, and so it's like yikes. But idle thoughts.
Like I don't know if we know the exact time frame. We probably do, and I'm just forgetting it. But yeah, basically like the serpents have been hanging out for generations, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and like dragon generations.
Yeah.
So
I don't remember where Althea and Brashen were.
God knows. I think they were just they were like halfway to where they needed to be. They were kind of just like on Paragon and chilling.
Right. Something. They'd finished launching Paragon and they were out on the sea. In terms of like Brashen and Brashen and Althea both on the Paragon.
I think they basically start off like trying to figure out their game plan for when they reach Kennet, and they're kind of just like, well, we could be pirates, I guess, and then that doesn't exactly work out. But yeah.
Yeah, I think they intended to ransom Vivacia.
It's the first destination they go to after they set sail on the Paragon, to go like directly to the pirate haven, like
to Divvy Town. Yeah, I think so.
And yeah, that does not go super well. And then so we already covered Malta and stuff. Let's see. Wintro.
We have Rain and
Rain. Winter dead. We already talked about that. Yeah, Winter dead.
Yeah.
Rain is
trying to find Malta because Tintaglia showed him that Malta survived.
Yeah.
Did I think Tintaglia like showed him that she survived after like there's like a huge Bingtown kerfuffle where like everybody's not sure what to do. The Chalcids are invading, but there's like a bit of a break, and like all the different factions are yelling at each other. And Tintaglia is also like, "What am I doing here? I'll just kill you all." And I think in that was it pretty early on that big like negotiation meeting happened where then Tintaglia was like,
I think that's like
no,
midway
for real.
through, but like Rain tries to like they basically fly downriver, and I don't know if they see her or what. Oh no, they see her, and then Tintaglia is like, "We cannot go land there." And
oh, that's the really early one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
And then later, when he's despairing, like midway through the book, then Tintaglia is like, "I still detect her presence, so she's not dead."
Yeah. Speaking of Bingtown, where's Ronica and everyone at the start of the book? Ronica, Cirilla.
She stays in Bingtown the entire time.
Right, and I believe at first she's you mentioned Cirilla, right? She's staying in the same like house as Cirilla is. Hello.
Yeah. What's his face? Yeah, Davad's house.
Davad. It's the way the audiobook said his name. And yeah, so they're staying in Davad's house. And yeah, it's kind of
having political problems with trying to reconcile the old traders with the new traders, and them with like the river folk or fishing folk.
Three Rivers, I think. What was it called?
Three ships.
Three ships.
Right.
And then the slaves, and so there's like all these different communities of people who are trying to build a new Bingtown.
And keep others from, or basically like they're not all unified in any way. They're very much like, okay, well, yeah, we're in danger and there's this upheaval, but they don't come together very easily. And it's like Ronica's the entire time spent in this book of like trying to get people to like band together in any sort of way. And a lot of the traders are kind of like, okay, we're selling out, we're gone, peace, or trying to.
I mean, the traders are like, what will we do if the other people are not lower class citizens? And then the new traders are basically just like, yeah, I guess we just really are going to use violence to achieve political ends, but like not in the cool way.
And I think this was mostly all resolved with Tintaglia being like, I've got a lot of work for you guys to do in unearthing my cities. And I think they said that you would get trader status if you were of the slave class or of the three ships class if you went and put in the work to do this. So I think that's kind of how that got resolved. Is offering new trader status.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I mean, certainly the combined, like, hey, we're all under threat by the Chalcids. They don't care who you are. They're just here to, like, pillage and, like, make everyone a slave, potentially. And the kind of being very cut off from the... what's the nation called? That, like...
Jamalia?
Jamalia. Yeah, being very cut off from Jamalia and, like, not having a lot of options there, but then it's like, oh, a dragon. Maybe we should consider doing what she wants. And then also making a profit out of it, which is, kind of a cool new status quo.
Well, it was great that Brashen and Althea finally got together. They had a hell of a ride throughout this whole book.
Yeah.
Happy that they got together. And then, we had lots of couples splitting up. Like, there was constant, like, where's Rain and Malta? They did not spend any time together this book. And there was a pretty long stretch of time where Brashen and Althea did not spend time together. And then kind of at the end when everything got put together, it's like, oh, well, we've reunited all of our couples, which was satisfying. but happy about the Brashen and Althea actually like getting together. I felt that was kind of a slow burn over the whole trilogy.
Yeah. Althea kept teasing us too.
They did. Yeah. They did. Yeah, I also really like that. I was very, very satisfied with the ending where we got to see not only the kind of culmination of their of like the political efforts and like how society is kind of restructured a little bit to for everyone's benefit, but also like the pairings are really fun. I think Rain and Malta are very cute, and you know,
my favorite pairing, Etta and Kenneth's dead corpse.
I was about to say, like, Etta seems fine. She's doing fine. Not,
Etta and Wintrow, I think, will end up being good together. I think that's going to take some time for them to figure out.
Yeah, I'm not sure, like, will they end up together in, like, a relationship way, or are they good, like, with this current status quo that they leave at the end of the book, where they're just kind of, like, really close, and it's not necessarily a thing. I can't remember if the book, like, hints that, like, that's definitely gonna be a thing.
I think they let you draw your own conclusion. It seemed to me like Etta was still very much grieving, and so it didn't seem like she was super interested in Wintrow that way at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that she's gonna grieve for the amount of time she needs to grieve, and she's gonna have her baby, and Wintrow's gonna be the one who's there to help raise it. And that's gonna, like, I don't see any other way that that's gonna end up going than for them to end up together.
Pretty fair. Yeah. Very domestic. Very cool.
Yeah, I think that, like,
well, she's queen of the pirates.
Yeah. Also that.
That's not very domestic.
No.
I mean, that is. I guess I have like two general thoughts on that. The one thing is, I think the Etta Wintrow thing is one of the things. The ending, I feel like it's sort of. It doesn't leave us on a cliffhanger, but it really is just like it takes us up to a certain point, and then it's like the rest is implied, or there you can infer the rest. I think it does like a pretty good job of that, where it's like. It's like it's open-ended in a sense, but not so much so that it feels disappointing. You can draw your own conclusions. And also, I think like lots of the dynamics or like struggles in that respect from between characters was trying to reconcile the idea of like settling down, and then all of them are just like, we're not going to settle down. We're going to, like, Malta and Rain are going to be like ambassadors for the dragons. They're going to like go here and there.
I love Malta becoming an ambassador. I just think Malta turned out so great, considering how annoying she was.
Yeah.
Boy.
And I love that she gets her dance with Rain. It's a moment where like we were so happy to see her grow up, but also there's something so good about her getting to still be a kid in that moment. She gets her love story.
She does.
And she also gets like, it's not just that she's the sparkliest and prettiest girl at the dance. She's one of the most powerful women in the room. And those two are simultaneously true, which is a good, like, satisfying end for her. That like she's not important because she's pretty. She's important because she's queen of the Elderlings and is going to start a new race.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's cool. And I also love that, like, for both Rain and Malta, if so much of the book is spent like, oh God, I'm ugly. Like,
I love that they both were so dramatic.
Mm-hmm. And I love how much they love each other, and they're just so confused. They're like, huh? Ugly? You? Okay? It's just
and then they're both hurting each other's feelings because they're like, no, like they don't want to see me because I'm ugly, and the other person's like, I don't want to see them because I'm,
They don't want me to see them because they think I'm ugly. Just
Like, the dramatic irony is like, jeez Louise, can you guys have a conversation about this for a second?
Of course
not.
What
do you expect?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, when everything was going nuts and there was the whole like ship battle and everything, and I think that in lieu of conversations happening, they figured it out at that time, which is good. Kenneth died.
Thank goodness.
He had to.
Goodness, Kenneth died.
He had to.
Too late.
Yeah.
Died a lot sooner.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, what are your thoughts on Kenneth's death, especially given how much like the sort of emphasis that was placed on, I guess, the destiny aspect for him?
I think it should have been worse and more painful and more prolonged. But
yeah,
that's my 2 cents.
Mm-hmm.
I think I agree with that. However, I think that him being killed by some not unnamed character is great because it's such a non-glorious death. You know, it's a stupid death that was done by somebody that we don't know and don't care about. And you know, it's spun in a way that he was protecting the satrap and blah 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 blah. So like to the world and whatever, that's spun off politically as him being some hero, but he's not. It was an unremarkable death for someone who wanted to be the most remarkable person, and he was denied a glorious death. He was denied, like, I don't know. I think it was important that he was killed by someone like an unnamed random pirate. That was good.
Yeah.
I like that spin on it. I didn't think of that, but that is a really good point. Like he was so obsessed with being like notorious, and then he just died like a death that any other random soldier or like pirate or whatever could have died.
Yeah.
And true. Like him getting, like, it being spun off to the rest of the world as him dying this heroic death to protect the satrap. I mean, we know that's not true, but I think I'm fine with the world knowing that because that protects Etta and that protects Wintro, is that narrative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's also like yeah, it makes sense, but there's also part of me where like it rankles that like
the world gets to think he's a hero.
Yeah.
In some ways it feels like he gets the last laugh a little bit. Like I would love for him like to just for everyone to know who he is, right? Because his whole thing is he's cultivated this image so carefully, and then he gets to be immortalized by it in some degree. But but I do agree. I like that it means that Etta and Wintro have this safety and can use like the cover of his legacy to do good for the world.
Yeah, I felt like Kenneth as a character, I felt like kind of I had a complicated relationship with him because in some places he's really funny, mostly out of dramatic irony of like him thinking that everything is going his way when he's really just really lucky, or like getting his insight into things, which is just so disconnected from reality, is funny. And like throughout the trilogy, you kind of feel connected to him because he's a perspective character and he does do good things like fight slavers. I mean, that was really never his intention to do anything good, but he does good things, and he was a better father figure to Wintro than Wintro's own father was. And so you become connected to Kenneth, not in a he's a good person way, but in a he's a very interesting character that I like to read about kind of way. And all of that stops when he rapes Althea.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, like, I can't connect to you anymore. I can't put myself in your perspective anymore. I can't, like, at that point, it's like, you've got to die. You've got to die.
it kind of turns him from like an interesting character into just a monster.
Yeah.
Like now you're just a monster and terrible and horrible, and I want you to die. Yeah. Whereas before that happens, it's kind of like, what's he gonna do? What's his like motivation? What's his backstory? Like
right, like him being one of the Ludlucks and like all this kind of stuff around that. His connection to the ship, right? It's like very interesting.
And to be fair, he also, even before that, is thinking like, wow, I super want to protect Wintro, but also like my definition of protect has this pretty creepy overtone to it. But yeah, ultimately there is this aspect of like the Althea moment is where he makes the explicit choice to be the monster. Yeah.
Right. Which is like maybe I mean, we didn't know that Egrat did that to him before that happens and we learn about it. But I think that if we had known that Egrat had done that to him earlier, then this would have become very predictable, because the whole line of the story is that he is becoming his own worst villain. He is becoming Egrat. And so it would make a lot of sense for him to do that since it had been done to him. And I think that he tries to make this into an excuse to try to say like, oh, well, you know, this is the way it works, and I didn't do it to Wintro, you know? And his little charm thing says no to that pretty quickly.
Yeah. It's like Kenneth has bought so much into this idea of like destiny and cycles as a way to like leverage power for himself or whatever. And it's also like this convenient excuse for every evil thing he does, even though it is ultimately like it's choice after choice after choice that he's explicitly making, and not just necessarily because of the horrible things that have happened to him.
I think in a way, it's also the only way he can like handle the things that have happened to him, because if it's just like a cycle and fate that these patterns keep repeating, then like it happening to him was just like there's like a reason for it. It's fate. Like it had to happen. And then
like it wasn't his fault.
Somebody else. Yes.
Yeah. It's like it's a hella coping mechanism. Yeah.
Right.
And that's why like Kenneth's whole thing is so complicated, because there's so much of like this question of never mind, we already talked about that, but yeah.
It's a rough scene to read. I think I took maybe like a 3-month break after reading that scene. I was like, I don't know that I want to keep like it was a very shocking kind of scene, because it's the first time that Rob and Hobb went that hard on a scene like that. I mean, the entire first trilogy is very like cut to black when we get to sex scenes. And this trilogy was not cut to black, but at least like a lot of the rapes were near misses, or when Cirilla was raped, like that was a lot more telling and a lot less showing. Whereas this is like, here's our 2 perspective characters, and we're doing a lot of showing and not a lot of telling. And I was like, I'm not sure that it was necessary to go into that much detail and to show that much, especially from Althea's perspective. I think after finishing the book, I reflected on that to think like, well, it was horrifying to read her experience, but also maybe important because we have to believe her.
And we have to lose empathy for Kenneth, because like, you know, to really drive it home the emotional like, all right, well, fuck this guy. That's it.
We have to hate Kenneth and we have to believe Althea. And so maybe it was necessary to read it from her perspective. I just hated it. I hated doing it.
It was awful. And one of the things that makes it like particularly devastating also is the like mental like not just what's happening to her, but like she thinks all of her friends are dead. Because he's like, oh, Brash and everybody's dead. She thinks Brashen's dead. She thinks they failed their mission. She like she's like drugged and disoriented and feels sick. Like there's so many layers like stacked on top of her. It really like crushes her spirit in every.
She's been trapped in a room for how long? Like a week and a half
like
or something?
every single way that it can break her down, it breaks her down. And like plot wise, that has to happen because she retreats so far into herself and into the ship that she finds Vivacia. And eventually that kind of like starts, that's the little like pebbles that start the avalanche that gets like Vivacia to come back and get rid of Bolt.
Right.
So in that aspect it has to happen, but like it's brutal. Like I remember putting the book down that night and just being like, ugh, I feel fucking bummed.
Yeah.
Like big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that like Robin Hobb knew that this was a big scene and was very careful not to throw it away. Like there was consequences that came of this, and it was a whole thing. It wasn't a throwaway scene that was just there to be shocking. It was it was important for plot reasons, unfortunately.
It also represents, like, I feel like a lot of time in fiction there's this idea of like justice, and in reality a lot of the time when particularly women come forward with stories like this, they're gaslit and they're not believed. And that's what happens to Althea.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it like represents this like shitty part of society too.
Yeah. Like you read the rape scene and you're like, this is awful. And then you're like, okay, but surely like this is immediately gonna be a huge deal. And people are like, what? No, that doesn't seem right. Like, absolutely not.
And like people who are ostensibly her friends and companions.
Right. I mean, even Wintro has a hard time being like accepting the truth of it, right?
Well, the only one that believes her is Edda because she knows.
Yeah. And Edda's even like, I'm mad because he's my boyfriend.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, she did devote like her whole life to him, like, you know, pretty hardcore.
And was pregnant with his child at the time.
Yeah, I guess. I just felt like her reaction towards Althea was like really fucked up.
She should have been mad at Kenneth. She shouldn't have been mad at Althea. It's not like Althea seduced him.
Right.
No.
I mean, yeah, ultimately,
like Wintro, that he was like, "This'll do."
Yeah, and I think that at some level, like Edda is sort of like she's obviously not acting in like the right way, but it's understandable because she's just sort of like her entire worldview is just completely fucked at that point, and she has no idea what to do. I think that for me, that moment is less. It's less fucked up to me than the way that she keeps Kenneth in her mind later, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, like the fact that she still holds Kenneth in some regard or esteem or whatever later is what that rankles me more than like obviously it's still bad, but I can understand an initial bad reaction if it led to that like reflection and letting go, and it doesn't quite happen that way.
Well, I feel like the charm doesn't do any good, like in changing her mind about Kenneth, because it is over there whispering like sweet nothings into her ear after he's dead.
True. Yeah,
I think maybe it's like best for Edda to be a little deluded because she's gonna raise this kid and tell him how great his dad was, and Wintro's gonna be like, sure, he did do some good things, and he did, but he's gone now, and we're just gonna remember him.
Yeah. Speaking of the charm, if no one minds a transition.
Sure.
What did y'all make of the charm, for y'all being the new readers, by the end of the series? Because I think all of us on our reread had like some revelations about the charm when before we were like, what the fuck?
We had some big ones. We had some very big ones.
I'm not sure that I have revelations about the charm. I mean, it's a dragon that's talking to him.
Yeah. I think it's a
Right?
dragon soul, and then like what has it been doing this whole time? It's like saying like, oh yeah, Kenan, for sure, I'll protect you and stuff, but also like do what I want you to do. And I guess it was pretty keen on Bolt. Like it liked Bolt, or no, or the opposite.
I don't remember. We would get very few and far between scenes with this charm.
Well,
It
the
was
charm
usually very
tried to
present.
sneak in. He tried to sneak into Bolt, and Bolt was like, "No, thanks."
Oh.
And the charm is like constantly admonishing Kenneth, but also is like trying to like help out Edda. Because there's all this mention of like Kenneth's sweet side, and it's all just the charm whispering to Edda, and she doesn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh right, yeah, where the charm is like stepping in to smooth things over, and the charm, or was it the charm, or was it Kenneth who insisted that the charm be passed on to Kenneth's son?
It was the charm.
Kenneth
It
insisted.
was the charm itself.
Really?
It has
I mean,
his
Kenneth
voice.
gave the charm to Edda.
I'm pretty sure. Didn't it happen when they were carrying him back to the ship and he was like unconscious, but she heard him say something to her, and then we get Kenneth's perspective right after that, and he's like waking up. So I think it was the charm talking, and he was like completely out for that.
Oh, but
Yeah.
we don't. It's not told that directly that that's the case, but it's like
Right. It's left for you to like interpret.
Yeah, because there's like a specific like tone that like charm Kenneth uses. It's
Yeah.
like a lot more like
It's always like a
conciliatory.
whisper.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if Kenneth's lips aren't moving, you kind of have to be sneaky about it. You can't just yell from his wrist.
Yeah. And I think I definitely glossed over the first time I read it because I'm like, he's whispering because he's fucking dead. But
Yeah.
no,
He's whispering because it's literally not him.
yeah.
that's a really interesting.
Huh.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was Kenneth.
No, it's definitely, well, yeah. I mean, it's not explicitly said in the book, but upon a reread, it was very clear to me that it was the charm.
I see.
Well, and think about it. What would happen after Kenneth dies? Like, the charm would get thrown overboard or whatever, too.
Mm.
True.
And then it would just be like alive at the bottom of the ocean, like stuck forever. Like, that would fucking suck.
Or put in like a storage chest or sold off or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
So yeah. I think-
Okay.
And it's very important for the charm to be with Edda
Yeah.
and the baby.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or like it said, like
Am I
make sure that.
do I say the thing? Can I say the thing?
I
or
feel
are we
like
just
I feel like we never find out for sure, so it's not like a spoiler if we say it.
Yeah.
sure. Does anyone else want to take point on it? Okay, I'll
Okay.
say.
We think that because when they like chopped up Paragon's face,
Yeah.
it was like bits of wizard wood that got like sold.
Mhm.
So
We think the charm could be made of Paragon.
yes, because the charm says at one to Edda, "You'll name him Paragon, won't you? The son."
Yeah. I thought that
Okay.
Kenneth was saying that. I didn't
The
realize the
charm,
charm was
yeah.
No, it was the
Charm said that. And that was like a little secret deal that Paragon and Kenneth made when Kenneth was little.
Yeah.
That someday he'd have a son and he'd name it Paragon after the ship.
And protect the
Okay.
child.
I guess I don't know if that part is like the charm fashioned after Kenneth seems to know a lot about Kenneth because Kenneth puts it on and like it like takes on. It says it kind of like I know more about you than you do kind of a thing. And I
Yeah.
guess I assumed that was the nature of how the charm worked, but it is very compelling to think it knows a lot about Kenneth because it used to be like it's made of the same
Paragon.
stuff,
Yeah.
right?
And
Yes,
Paragon
Paragon.
took a lot of Kenneth into him.
So
Right.
Paragon
He basically
technically
was like-
probably knows more about
About
Kenneth.
than Kenneth does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I like that
Metaphysically, didn't the book like tell us basically that Kenneth did die as a child and then was like
Multiple times.
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
Paragon
just
soul
brought
stuffed
him
in
to
him?
life.
Or
Yeah.
not Paragon's soul, but Paragon just kept like
theory. he gave him strength in the way that Vivacia has given Wintro and Althea strength.
Well, he would take all of the memories and like he would take the pain from the memories and stuff. So he like kept part of Kennit inside himself and then kind of had to like replace the stuff that he was taking from Kennit with some of his own essence is how I think of it.
Yeah, I remember thinking there's some aspect where non-Kennit material is being, merged with Kennit.
Yeah.
Kennit's basically like a shell of a person. He has no like emotions because all of this like feeling and pain has just been stripped from him over and over and over from his childhood to the point where he's just like a sociopath.
Well, he's like basically forged.
Yeah.
Is one way to think of it.
It's kind of wild is that I guess the rape is we're going back to the rape. The rape is framed as like a passing on of the pain that he suffered at the hands of the old pirate Egrat. So I guess thinking about the way that Paragon like took painful memories away, I was like, was there some moment where reuniting with Paragon like gave Kennit back? I don't know, something. I guess that doesn't really.
I think
timeline
it's
doesn't
too
work
far
out
to
there.
say that Kennit is forged. I think that he does have emotions. They're just so self-centered. Like, I agree with the sociopath sort of remark, but I think that he has emotions. They're just only about himself. Like, we see him experience fear when he thinks that he's going to be found out, or when he thinks his luck is going to be up because he cares so much about luck. And we see him truly experience fondness for Wintro and be like, am I going to have to kick Wintro off the boat? I don't really want to do that. I like Wintro, kind of.
Right. But I think his fondness for Wintro is really sort of a circular fondness for himself because he sees himself in Wintro and he's like, I want to protect my childhood innocent self and less about Wintro as Wintro. So, like,
Sure.
I don't know if that's like actual empathy.
Yeah, it's like a narcissism thing, I think.
Definitely.
But yeah, I agree that like compared to the forged folk we see in the first trilogy, there's a lot more going on there, which is good because it makes Kennit actually compelling to read. But yeah,
and he's not like surgically forged the way that those people are. He's like accidentally forged by his friend.
I feel like that'll freaking do it. If you die multiple times, like you can't come back the same person that you were when before you died.
Like we even see that with Fitz when he dies in the first book. He comes back like fucked up.
Yeah. But yeah, so ultimately, because the first time I read this, I'm like, what the fuck is the point of the charm? But then thinking of it from that perspective, it makes, he wants to protect Edda and like keep Edda and Kennit, or like keep or like maintain a relationship between Kennit and Edda because he wants like a child or successor. He wants this like, because that was like the big promise that Paragon or Kennit and Paragon had, which was like that. I'll have a kid, I'll name him after you, and I'll raise him to be safe and protected in the way that I never was, sort of deal.
And it explains why the charm hates this iteration of Kennit so much, because he's just Egrat. And Egrat's what destroyed like Paragon and Kennit's childhood self.
Yeah.
Right. I think Paragon, like to talk about Paragon as a character, also had a very satisfying like end and development, because throughout the trilogy he experiences this huge wide range of decisions and experiences, and I think it makes perfect sense that he's made out of two different kinds of wizard wood, and so he's like always feeling conflicted. That really like explains why sometimes he acts like a little kid and sometimes he acts like an adult, and also that he like the people who died in making him were a child and like adults, and so he's got all of these conflicting memories. He's got two different dragons in him, and that makes him very faceted. And I think that almost makes it easier for him to come to terms with his dragon self. You know, like when we see these other ships like find out that they're dragons, they have like this identity crisis, and Paragon's like, I eat identity crises for breakfast. Like, that's every single day of my life. And so I think he adjusts to the whole dragons thing. Like, sure, there might as well be dragons in me. It's not like I've ever been well adjusted.
They've certainly been acting like dragons inside of my body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got Kenneth in him, and he's got all these different things. And so that leads him to be really volatile, and like finding out that there's dragons in him and figuring out his relationship to Kenneth and figuring out where his loyalties really lie, like ends up being the best thing that could ever happen to him.
And like he's having it rough at the start of the book. We have Lavoy trying to manipulate him and like pull his violent tendencies to the forefront. We have him reuniting with Kenneth, and there's that horrible scene where he's like, "Yeah, sorry, Kenneth, I didn't die good enough for you. I'll burn myself now. Thanks."
Right.
Yeah. Jeez.
And then having Brashen try to figure out like, I have to trust Paragon to get Althea back, but I don't trust Paragon because he just tried to kill me.
Yeah.
If you guys ever like decide that you want to reread these, one thing that's really fun about rereading them is picking out who's like in the driver's seat of Paragon at any given time. Because there are times where someone says like, or I think Amber says it at one point, like sometimes you're like a wise man and other times you're like a spoiled child. And it's like, yeah, the child is Kenneth.
Mm-hmm.
And the wise person is probably like the other Ludlucks that died on the ship. And then
but
we've
also
got 2 dragons in there.
And
One of-
Eagle.
And all the pirates. Yeah.
one of the Ludlucks that died on the ship was a child. And so I thought that when he was acting as a child, he was acting as that child that died, not Kenneth.
I think it's both.
Yeah.
Because definitely I think Kenneth's like childhood self is in Paragon. I don't think there's a trace of that person in like Kenneth's body.
That makes sense. Yeah, where like the whole childhood aspect was absorbed by Paragon, and now that just that childlessness is left behind. Yeah, that's cool. I'm trying to remember because there was like a lot of specific stuff that happened after Kenneth's death, where like Paragon reabsorbed him, kind of something like that.
Yeah.
And
I don't know
Etta
how to
was
parse
trying
that.
to talk to Paragon and be like, "Hey, can Kenneth talk to you?
Can Kenneth come to the phone?
Yeah.
Yeah." And Paragon's like, "No, sorry."
And man, I wish he didn't lie to her.
Same.
What did he lie to her about?
He
Did
lied
Kenneth ever love me?
Loved her.
And he says yes.
Ooh.
He said in his own way he did, but he did not.
Internally, he's like, haha, the fuck not.
I wonder if that's a way to make sure that she doesn't resent her child.
Yeah, again, I'm very pro Etta being deluded. I think that's going to be good for the kid.
Yeah. That's the end game. The kid is the end game for sure.
Trying to, like, the way the book is trying to set things up in such a way that, like, things can continue without more pain being passed down and more, you know.
We break the cycles of our past to forge a new future for the coming generations.
Yeah.
Which very much every aspect of the book is entangled with that in some way.
And you know, to the extent that Kenneth could love someone, that he was capable of it, if he could have felt love, it would have been for Etta, because he depended on her. And that's as close as we get to love in Kenneth land. He expected her to be there for him, and he there's times that she's not there, and he's like, damn, I wish Etta were here to, like, fix my problems and stuff. And that's as close as we get to love for him. So if that's love in his own way, then it's not a lie.
But Paragon...
Fingers crossed behind my back.
Yeah.
Let's
talk about Amber.
Yes.
Yeah, you know,
Your
what
favorite
is there to
character,
talk
Julia?
about?
So I don't like that she is actually the fool. I hate this, actually.
How do you know that?
Yeah.
How do I know that she's actually the fool? Because she says it.
No, she doesn't. What do you mean?
Huh?
like when she's talking to Paragon about her past, she's like, "Oh, I have been called the fool. I have been called a fool." And we know that she comes from the Six Duchies, and she carved Paragon's face in Fitz's face. So,
Okay.
Who could it be though?
so I don't like that. I think that the Fool and Amber are different characters. They were written differently. They don't have any of the same aspects of a similar personality. They're not the same. They have similar aspects in that, like, they're both good with their hands. You know, the Fool makes little puppets and toys, and Amber makes beads and stuff. That's similar. They both have like weird complexions that are notable. Both gender ambiguous a little bit. And like, I would have been satisfied if Amber had like come from the same place as the Fool. I would have been satisfied if they were like family members or something. But for her to actually be the Fool, I'm like, they're not the same person at all. They talk in completely different ways. They act in completely different ways. They're not similar as people. And so I do not like that she is the Fool.
So
because that does not make sense to me.
one thing I will say is hold on to that, and I think that there will be chance for more thought or discussion on that coming into the next trilogy.
Yes, for
my
sure.
my 2 cents, and then we can go through the other co-hosts.
Yeah, 2 cents too.
I think that I agree. I don't think that I think Amber and the Fool are very much distinct people. There are overlaps, right? Like they very much have similar ways of thinking and goals, etc., and skills. But I think
they're both looking for anchors or catalysts.
Yeah, catalysts. Yeah. But I think that Amber is both like a grown-up version of the Fool, but also a version of the Fool that is sort of an aspect of the personality that is built for this time and people she's looking for in some senses, right? Like she almost explicitly says that at one point, right? Where she's just like,
she becomes what she needs to in the moment, like to relate to the people and like get them to do what she needs them to do.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like really early on when she is helping Althea make a disguise? Does she say that then?
Yeah. Like in her wood shop super early on. But yeah, it is very much like I don't disagree. They are very different people.
It felt like a cheap trick to be like, oh, she's that other person. I'm like, no, that's not. Another thing is this is specifically about her carving the boat to look like Fitz. I thought that was disrespectful to Paragon. Because for the first time ever, Paragon is his own person. He has finally figured out his own identity and who he's meant to be, and then she gives him someone else's face. I don't like that. I think that she should have given him a face that is completely brand new, that it doesn't belong to anybody else, one that can be his. He's finally his own person. He's finally got his own identity, and now he has to wear some stranger's face? Like, that's not fair to him.
I agree. I think it's the Paragon definitely reminds her of Fitz, but it's a monstrous vanity in some senses.
Alex, I believe you had some sense to pass along
about Amber and the Fool. I think that Amber being the Fool just shows how good the Fool is at adapting to their surroundings and like becoming the person that they need to be. And I think that we really don't get to see who the Fool truly is. Like when Fitz goes into the Fool's room that one time and he's like, I don't see any of the Fool that I know, the like mean-tongued, like sharp-witted Fool. This is like a very beautiful, like delicate thing. And there was like that baby in the crib that was artsy and stuff. Like
there were like a bunch of dolls in his room, wasn't there?
Yeah, we don't really
like
know
a
the true Fool, I think, or like the true person. Because we call them the Fool, but like that's not their name, and Amber's not their name. Like We just don't get to see who they are at their core. We just get to see all of the faces that they put on for everybody else.
We do see the Fool have very strong emotions and like basically like give up on their whole hero quest and like be depressed in the mountain lands, right? Like the mountain
Yeah.
folk.
Well,
for a
that's when
while.
I think that Fitz is dead, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Yeah.
when that's
yeah,
when
and they're just like, I guess
It-
I'll make puppets and paint them.
Yeah.
So that could be maybe close to like, okay, well I don't need this Fool identity anymore. Like I'll just
I think for all of it, it's like there's obviously like I think that like a dangerous thing to think about is that like it's not that each is fake, or like these are like fake personalities. It's that they're all of them are true, but they don't like
They're
add
not
up
the
to
whole.
one.
They're all
Yeah.
little pieces of who they are
So like
at their core, but they're not like the entire person.
yeah, where it's like, and again, I think Jared was the one who told me that like Julia figured out that Amber's the Fool and she's pissed, and I'm like, no. But I get it now, and I think that this is something. Again, we're gonna be going straight into the next trilogy. We're getting Fitz and the Fool reuniting.
Yeah.
So I'll just say like, hold on to that. It will like there will be more time to think about this, and obviously more time to process that as the Fool is on page as a character.
Mhm.
And I don't think that's an unreasonable reaction. I just think it's one that like hopefully tempers with time. Is what I'll say.
So I found out that Amber was the Fool by accident, which was unfortunate. I wanted to see a picture of Amber, like fan art of Amber, because
Never
I was
a
having,
safe move in Robin Hobb's world.
huh?
That's never a safe thing to do when you haven't read all 16 books. Like,
Yeah.
it's dangerous.
So I wanted like to see some fan art ever, so I just Googled like Amber Ship of Magic or Ship of Destiny or something. And then the Wikipedia line came up and it was like, Amber is the Fool. And I was like, what?
That's a rough way to learn that.
Oh yeah, I just googled it. Amber is the guise under which the Fool operated in Bingtown during the events of the Live Show Traders trilogy. God.
Exactly. And I'm like,
Dang.
nuh-uh.
No. Yeah, it's rough. I did have a fun time realizing, like, oh shit, okay, like there are hints being dropped here, and I've got to put them together, and like, oh, okay, she like I keep thinking, oh, there's all these similarities, but it can't be the case. Like, no, that doesn't make any sense. I think like maybe even in one of our calls, I was asking about the timeline, like, when does
We
this take
tried our best to
place?
throw you guys off the scent.
I got thrown off real good. I thought for sure it
Well,
wasn't the
because
case.
Julia was so gung ho, like, there's no way that they're the same. And we were like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, for sure. There's no way they're the same.
And I was
No
like,
way.
shoot, I'm wrong. Whatever, And then the book kept dropping little things, and I was like, what's going on here? Who this person is? And yeah, they were the Fool, which was fun. I did not catch the Fitz's face thing at all. Like, Amber was like the book was describing what it looked like, and I was like, nice face. Just
Well, if you don't know
There's nothing
that
wrong with his
he's evil,
nose.
you don't look for Fitz's face in Paragon's new face. Like, you don't expect it.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
she described the earring. And,
Mhm.
like,
And the charging bucks on the
Described
axe
in the first
handles.
And an axe in general and a
Right.
broken nose. Like, it's all our boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. At the very like near the end where we have some like epilogue-y stuff with Brashen and Althea on Paragon, like finding Ingrat's hidden treasure.
That was cool.
That was pretty cool. There was also like the dream and like rain scene where like Althea talks to Paragon about stuff. But relating to the Fool, like they find what is like a crown in the chest, right?
Yeah, I forgot about that.
The rooster
Yeah.
crown.
Rooster crown, and the rooster crown, if I remember in the third book of the original trilogy, like that came up as like a vision of like the people who used to live in the
Yes.
mountains there, Is
well,
that
or a previous there was a previous white who was wearing the crown, I believe.
Yeah,
And
a white prophet.
yeah, and then there was talk of the White Prophet's catalyst at the time, Realder and Realder's dragon and all that. But yeah.
Remind me who ended up on the throne after the first trilogy of the Six Duchies.
Ketrican.
Ketrican.
Yeah.
Verity's life.
Not
And she's pregnant.
Yeah.
she's got an heir, which means
Very-
probably no one's going to try to assassinate her. Yay!
Right, because Verity became the dragon.
Yeah,
Yes.
and saved the Six Duchies.
Right.
And then went to go sleep for forever.
And he
Listen, that's a
used
good job.
Fitz's body to bang Ketrican.
So technically,
That's
Fitz is having a
right.
baby also, but like it's not really his baby. But
I
it's
fully
really-
forgot that. Oh
It's
my god!
genetically his baby.
Yeah.
So it's a Farseer. Congrats.
Yep.
Technically, Fitz would have been the first in line and the heir to the throne if chivalry had not abdicated. So
Yeah.
I guess the line remains unbroken.
Wait,
Right.
can bastards inherit in this?
If they like
if they're
are
the only.
claimed.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I've read Game of Thrones recently, and so like I need to make sure I've got my like inheritance facts right for each
Yeah.
setting.
When you said the
Um,
others earlier, I was like, the others? And then it took me a
You're
second
right.
to catch up.
Because I was like, am I talking about is that what they're called? Is that like okay, yeah, no. But okay, they can inherit if they're claimed. Cool. But yeah, guess the heir to the Six Duchies is gonna be a Farseer. It's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah.
I guess Vivacia is one character that we haven't touched on, like, mostly at all.
Yeah,
Mostly at all. She had a whole time.
She was sort of like MIA for lots of the book, but
So we get her at the very beginning, but very soon after it, she becomes Bolt, because once Wintrow is on the deck, then Wintrow, like, she finds out from Wintrow that she's a dragon, and then we get Bolt, who I think I said in chat, gaslight, gatekeeps, and girl bosses her way across
Yes.
the sea.
Yes, she does.
She's kind of a bitch, but
Kind of.
like, God forbid women do anything.
Look. I think a little genocide of her entire species as a treat, she can have it.
I mean, she wanted to lead the serpents up the pass. It just
Did
wasn't her
she?
first priority.
Yeah, she definitely did. Kenneth just wasn't going to let her.
She was like, I'm using Kenneth and it's gonna work, and Kenneth's like, this is fine. I'm never gonna.
Yeah, like the timing wasn't very good. She wanted to have the serpents as a force longer than they had.
Yeah.
Mm.
And finally, the serpents are like, listen, we can't keep, like, we're out of time.
Mhm.
We got to go.
Mm-hmm. And thankfully, before they left and got lost and died, Tintaglia came in clutch. But yeah, man,
Tintaglia is my favorite new character from this.
She's
book.
great.
Yeah.
Tintaglia and Bolt are both great, but Tintaglia is like, I remember hating her a lot more on the first read, and then on this one, it's like she's spitting. She's got facts.
Well, it's the same as Malta. Like, I didn't care for Malta at the first read, and this time I was like, I'm like a Malta stan, and I like sided with Tintaglia. I'm pretty sure, like, pretty much every time she interacted with the people, I'm like, yeah, you all suck. Like, just listen to her. She knows what she's talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's not, like, very polite ever. So
No,
she's
but
a little
not what
bristly.
you expect.
She also doesn't like hold others in high regard or esteem or respect their right to live. She's just fine with them dying or killing them.
I think it's pretty iconic that she saw a whole battle going on in the ocean and she's like, here you go, Rin. Have fun.
Yeah.
And she's like, why did it take you so long? And he's like, because you dropped me in the middle of a battle in the ocean. And she's like, but you were fine,
I think it's really
People have
cute.
other things to worry about. Okay, she's got to save her species. She can't handle one little romance shit.
Wasn't there a thing like near the end where she's like, all right, I'm off to do my thing, and then like gets tired and like can't really complete it on her own or something like there was something where like she needed the help of either the live ships or
Yeah, they needed to
something
find a
like
place for her to land.
yeah, like she was
Mhm.
flying too long and
She hadn't eaten in a while. Yeah, she basically she works herself tirelessly to lead the serpents too.
mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
and she's still so young as a dragon. Like, she's not even fully grown. She doesn't have time to go and like hunt and eat all the time because she's got like so much other things on her plate. I really feel
Mhm.
bad for her.
It is hard to remember that she physically is quite young, but like that's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that her meeting Malta is pretty fun, where she's like, "Oh my gosh, you've got that crest on your head. You're gonna be such a good Elderling queen." You know, like she takes to Malta pretty immediately. She likes her a lot.
Yeah.
I like to imagine that Selden is gonna find a cool girl in a few years, and then they also will like be Elderlings and stuff.
Well,
Man.
he's already halfway there, so you know.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, Selden.
Taglia is his greatest love, so will he ever find another? Truly.
No one can match her.
Who's to say?
Selden is a very, very dedicated bard, which is just kind of a wild thing, and it just happens. Like,
Well, and he's so
Selden,
young.
and then he's just like, I'm going to become an artist simply to honor your glory, great dragon woman.
So where do we think that everybody's, or at least the kids, how old are they by the end of the trilogy? Like, do we think that, so doesn't Wintro start at 14?
Something like that.
13?
I bet if we went through like intentionally to add up all the seasons that go by, because it's always labeled by season, we
True.
could figure out like how many years, but I don't know. I would guess like
2?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Let's look. I will pull up.
So I think Selden is like 10 years old by the end, something like that.
So we
I
start
think it
at
starts
midsummer, and then we have winter in Ship of Magic. I'm pretty sure it's a year.
like each book.
No, I think it's total a year. Wait, okay.
That's a hell of a year.
Mad Ship
No,
is
I
1
think
year
we
because
go
there's
through-
summer.
2 summers, don't we?
High summer. High summer is the last season we get for Mad Ship. Let's see.
Wait, it ends in spring. Ship of
Winter.
Destiny ends in
So
spring.
it's 2 years. Yeah, because we end in spring, so it's been like a year and a half.
The whole trilogy
Okay.
is like
The
a year
whole
and a half,
trilogy is
2 years.
literally a year and a half, and the craziest trilogy. Like, so much goes on. All of the
So much
characters
happens.
feel like they are grown-ups, and they're only a year older than they were.
Yeah, let's say they're 2 years older, right?
Yeah.
So Selden starts at like 13, ends at 15 then. Malta started at 11, would end at 13. Selden started at like 9 or 10, so would end at like 11 or 12.
Wait, wow. Malta being 13?
By the end of it.
And like in the epilogues, it's like maybe a year later or so. So 14.
Which is why I'm like, this is crazy that they're allowing her to get married and stuff. She's a child.
I mean, that's how they did it then, I guess.
The first time I
I
read this
guess.
trilogy, I thought that Rain was like a pedophile.
Oh
And
yeah,
was,
I got that.
Very, very anti.
Wait, yeah, he has like creepy vampire vibes.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you he's Edward Cullen?
12 and you're like 19.
Right, and he's like,
Like-
I love you forever.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I mean, when I was
have
19,
my dream box.
my siblings were 12 and they looked like baby children, not
Right.
like teenagers or adults.
Like
Yeah.
right now, I look at undergrads at my university and I'm like, you're a baby. You're 18.
Yeah.
You're so small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did they let you out of daycare? Damn.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
does your dad know that you're here?
Where's your permission slip? Are you allowed to be walking around here by yourself?
That's how I feel sometimes when I see people driving. Like, I'll see someone drive a car going past me. I'm like, who's letting that 10-year-old drive?
Right.
Oh yeah.
Just a little kid out on a joyride.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh man. This might be. I guess this is a small spoiler, but like, how much time passes between the end of this book and the next book?
It can't be that
I want to
long,
say like
but-
5 years.
I don't
5
even
years? Is it
I
5
don't-
years?
No,
No.
because Amber says
No.
that she's got to go back up north and like pretty much immediately, I think starts.
I think it's like a year or something because there is.
if
what
that.
did
Yeah.
Jack say? What I don't know.
Because like, I'm really curious about the whole Elderling City, dig and like help the drag. Like, there's a lot of narration we got at the end of the book about like, oh yeah, like
I
a bunch of the
imagine
dragons didn't survive, but then like a bunch of them
Oh wait, no,
did
no.
end up
It
hatching.
is like a little bit, but like I think it's like 2 years at most.
I imagine that we're gonna learn all about
is
dragons
Leah
and
like
stuff
here?
in the Rainwild Chronicles.
I'm
Definitely.
looking at
The
Leah's
Rainbow
thing and she's
Chronicles
frozen.
is all about all of that stuff. I think Leah's gone.
Okay.
How do we get her back?
Draw a summoning circle. Blood sacrifice.
I agree.
Probably just like a disconnect and then. Okay, I see a black chains. Oh, okay.
She's full DC'd.
Okay.
All right, I'll get the circle started.
Everybody got your candles? It is the equinox right now, so it makes sense.
Oh. Interesting.
But yeah, so let me. Yeah, I think it's not like a crazy amount of time, but it's definitely like a few years. I don't know if it's 5 years. It could be 5 years, but I think that's fucking crazy. I never visualized it.
It's been longer since, like, I feel like since the first book and the second book, it's longer than, or the first trilogy and the second trilogy is a longer amount of time between them than the live ships and Tawny Man.
Time between live ships and Tawny Man.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So like, definitely not enough. Not like a dragon generation away. or anything
What?
like that.
No way. Are you kidding? This is not real.
What's it say?
It says 6 to 8 years. No way.
No.
So I was right, or closest.
No way. Okay, wait.
I thought that 6 to 8
Okay,
years
wait. It says 5 to 8.
Farseer and live ships.
By the time we
Because
get back
it's total
to
like 15 years when we're in Tawny Man.
Okay, I guess. Okay, wait. Let me see.
Fitz also is not the best narrator for time, so we don't know how long time has actually passed.
All right, because isn't he just like in a cabin, truly just
Like,
going
has
Yeah,
he
he is.
He is
started
Okay,
having a kid?
Yes, it's like what's her face? Starling Nightingale.
Yeah.
What's her name? Okay,
The
Starling.
bard. She brought him a kid.
Yeah, she's like have a child
And he was like, wait, this isn't
Enrichment
mine,
child.
right? And she's like, no.
This ain't mine.
So
right?
like Fitz is in like his early 30s in the
But
first
he
book. of
acts
Tawny.
like he's fucking like middle-aged. He acts like he's goddamn 60.
Yeah.
No, yeah,
That's a
this is
relief, because he was acting like a fucking
No, see, this is the thing.
5-year-old when he was
Fitz is-
15.
Fitz is a goddamn child, so he looks at. Remember, he's like Burge and Chade are old men.
Yeah,
These motherfuckers were like 40 at most. I think Burge was like.
at the very most.
Yeah, I think Burge was like 30.
Probably late 20s, like if we're being honest.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he's like late 20s.
Especially because everyone, like Molly's like, oh yeah, like all the girls think Birch is hot as fuck. Like he can't be hot if he's like old.
True.
Whoa.
I mean, okay, he could be a silver fox, but he's definitely not at that
like,
point.
he's not gonna be hot to all the like girls in town, all the like bar maidens and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think we're meant to understand that. Yeah, he's young adult, but like an adult enough to try to take care of him and have a job and be independent.
So yeah, I get it. Yeah, I don't know the exact time between like live ships and this, but it ultimately Fitz is like early 30s, and he was like 19, 20 at the end of the series. So it's like 15 years total, about
Wow.
you could say,
Wow.
or like 11 to 15 years total since we last saw him.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's hard to know how old Fitz is by the end there, because he just really doesn't say.
I'm so old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh. Okay, so like, yeah, we got dragons hatched, but they're still pretty young, and like, I assume going around trying to find more serpents, and like that's probably still an
For
active
now, yeah.
thing.
Serpents
Or-
are just cocooned. There hasn't been any hatching yet.
Oh shoot! I thought it talked about how many died in the cocoon and then how many actually hatched, like in the.
In the epilogue, I think it does.
Yeah.
Oh, it does?
I don't think we know how many actually hatched.
We don't get a number.
Okay.
But
okay.
I don't
in,
even
in
think
that case,
that they hatched yet.
I don't think they get to the hatching point. It's just like they're
It
cocoons.
was saying
Some
that
died.
some died before they could fully make their cocoon. Some died up
Yeah.
the river,
Like She Who Remembered died in the river.
which is so freaking sad.
I know.
I just wanted.
she
her to-
remembers as the unsung hero of this entire series.
literally.
Cool dragon.
She was tortured and imprisoned for God knows how long, maintained her
Stunted.
sanity.
Disfigured.
Yeah. And managed to save her entire race single-mindedly before dying. Like,
Wait,
damn.
if she dies, will there be another She Who Remembers, or
There
will-
always is within like the generations. I don't think it goes like she has a kid and her kid is she who remembers. I think it's just like random luck of the draw.
do they like consume her memories? Like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They consumed her toxins and memories.
They
yeah.
ate her, yeah.
Love that.
Mhm.
Dragons are hardcore. All right.
They are cannibals.
When they need to.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't think
not for
actively
fun
go out and
things.
eat each other. Yeah.
um,
So are the Cowsed states like? Are they just gonna continue to be just the evil country?
pretty much for now.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're kind of like
they're pegged as like pro-slavery, so that's
Right.
Yeah.
until
Kind of
they
a
can
huge
take that
deal.
reputation.
they've been pro-slavery for like nigh on probably like half a century minimum. They're
Mm.
also like we learn a lot about their values and culture from stuff that like we know that Kyle. Oh yeah, we didn't mention Kyle. He died.
I forgot about him.
Kyle died in this book. Oh my god. Yeah.
He comes. He gets released from captivity only to come out on deck and get fucking shot.
Don't
Yeah.
him and Kenneth die in like the same chapter too?
Yeah.
Back to
Like
back
the
chapters.
best chapter in the whole series.
Yeah.
I was so confident that Kyle was going to get a redemption arc book 1. By the end of book 1, I was like, absolutely not. But Kenneth, for sure, will get one.
Got
No,
worse.
absolutely not. Got worse.
But yeah, so yeah, and we get like an inkling of like how misogynist and generally bad Chalcedian culture is from like Kyle and other stuff. So like
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
That's
like-
just the case. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
We could talk about Brashen. I like Brashen. I think Brashen is great. I have no notes on his behavior, actually. Like, ever. Throughout the entire trilogy. I like it.
He made me very angry in the end of the book when he's like, Althea won't have sex with me. I'm going to pout
mm.
instead of communicating.
Listen.
Like, he's so mean to her just because she's like, I've been through something very traumatic and I would like it if you didn't touch me right now.
So,
Well, she didn't tell him that. He didn't
He
have
didn't
any.
know
Yeah,
that.
he was never
He was
given
kidnapped.
any
So
kind of
I'm gonna
context.
go get some water.
he
Y'all
has to
want
do is
anything?
use the 2 brain cells he has to put one puzzle piece together.
Yeah, so
Okay,
he's like, oh,
boy.
she's.
What do you
she's-
expect? He's a
I want to
dumb
comfort
boy.
her. I want to like, you know,
and also,
share affection, and
Also
she's
thinks
like,
that
no,
she's leaving
absolutely
him.
not.
Like, I think that his brain is more focused on like she's pulling away emotionally, so she's not like she wants to go to Vivacia, and I think that he wanted reassurance, and his way of getting that would have been through like having sex or something. And because she turns him away, he's like, oh, like it's done forever, and she's going to Vivacia, and she doesn't want me, and like I was just kind of in means to an end.
yeah, and he doesn't know that she's not leaving the next morning.
Yeah.
He thinks that she's leaving the next morning, that this is their very last chance to share any intimacy. He does not know that she has had this, like, he didn't know she was raped. And he thought that this was like their last chance to spend any time together ever. And so for her to like not reciprocate, that's him being like, well, that's the end of it, right? Like I am upset about that. Like I love you, and my bid for intimacy has been turned down, and I think that's like pretty reasonable to be upset about. And then she tells him, like, I'm not.
After months of keeping it a secret, like, girl,
Yeah.
tell him. You can't get help. You can't get better if you just keep it all inside yourself, like freaking Kenneth did.
Right. But I mean, it would be hard for her to say anything because, like, she could feel shame about it, and she could feel like Brashen.
Well, that's because of fucking Keffria. If Keffria hadn't been the worst sister on the entire planet of the Earth, I think that Althea would have told Brashen sooner.
I think that's
all Keffria's fault. Yeah,
it's always Keffria's fault, and she is the worst character above even Kenneth. No, not above Kenneth, but she's one of the worst characters, and I hate her. It's Kenneth, and then it's her.
I sense
Kyle. You're gonna put
because if she didn't marry Kyle, he wouldn't even been in the book. So it's her freaking fault, literally.
Yeah. So I sent some notes in chat from the first time I read these chapters. You know, just
I think what bothered me about it is Brashen acts in this part like he's entitled to Althea and her body, and that's very gross to me.
It's also just like he if he took a moment to think about why she was acting like that, I think there would be like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, and immediately
it's an off-brand level of like, it's an off-brand level of like just cluelessness from him. I
love Brashen in every other portion of this book except for that one chapter.
Agreed.
And this is the chapter
that whole thing was a miscommunication.
Yeah, and he even realizes it and is like, "Why didn't you tell me?" And then he's like, oh, "Wait, I should have known." And like immediately says that right after. He's like, "It is my fault, and I'm sorry."
Yeah.
And I like that there is like this level of like it's not just we won and now it's happily ever after.
Yeah.
I do wish that the conflict could have been less predicated, at least in my opinion. The way it was written, I feel like it was predicated on Brashen being dumb as a barrel of rocks. And
he's a man.
I think that he is dumb as a barrel of rocks sometimes, to be honest. When it comes to Althea, he is so blind. Like he just doesn't, they if they don't communicate, like it's all misunderstanding.
Yeah, and
their relationship is based on stupid miscommunication and assumptions that they think they know or have about people. Like,
and he has like that whole insecurity thing where he's like, "I'm not worthy of love from anyone," but especially
that's definitely because of his freaking parents.
Yeah.
TLDR though, I think that Leia, you're definitely right. Brashen does a bad job, but at the very least, I do think that the kind of like the lack of communication for me when I read it was very frustrating in the sense of like, wow, this could be like way more productive right now than this torture. This torture is nonsense. But yeah, at least the book couches it in like some kernel of truth about the way that you're very much blind to the things you care the most about and like that myopathy that arises there. So I think that in the end, I'm an apologist for Brashen. So
as far as Althea, like I was worried that it would feel like, oh, we have this strong woman and now she's giving up her ship, which was her dream for a man. And I was worried that it was going to feel like that. It didn't feel like that because she's not the same person that she was when she set that goal. Vivacia's not the same ship that she was when she set that goal. Mm-hmm. And they both individually went through a lot of development, and it felt like at the end that it made sense that Vivacia was Wintrow's ship and her own ship and not Althea's.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that actually brings me to, because we were really like anxious about the whole like, yeah, Althea's goal is to like obtain Vivacia again, but like we have this whole plot about like the ships realizing that they're dead dragons chopped up and amalgamated into things, and like what are the fate of the live ships? Like, isn't that also slavery? And you know, I agree very much with your point of like it's cool how they through their growth have also changed their kind of goals in that regard, and Althea is able to let Vivacia just be an entity, a person, and I'm trying to remember what the like resolution of the live ships perhaps
It
was.
depended on the ship.
Yeah.
They said that some of the ships like didn't have any reaction to it, like the Ophelia had no reaction to this whole dragon revelation, and they think that it's possible that like the wizard wood she was made out of was
The
from
dragon had died before.
yeah, like the dragon was already dead before they like it died in the cocoon or something, and so there wasn't a living dragon in that wood. But like the Kendry had a really rough time with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it depended on the ship.
And the Kendry like basically said, "Peace, I'm out. I'm gonna go like do my own thing out in the ocean." Right?
I don't remember. I just remember he
No,
had
I think you're thinking about the one that sunk itself, which is a different one.
That's the
God.
golden something, right?
Yeah. And that happened early.
Yeah, the Kendry is the one that they get passage
the
on.
Chimera's
I don't
ship.
remember.
Right. Right. Okay. But so what did the Kendry do after having a rough time?
I don't think we.
I think they just said
it's one of those things that's left kind of open ended in a sense, where it's just like the life ships are figuring out their own fate, and now that they're aware of their existence, they kind of have to learn how to deal with it. But I think that Paragon is supposed to be, in some senses, not representative, but sort of like this is the healthy way to deal with living with this hard truth or hard identity thing that like there isn't really a good way to mesh with, and just kind of be like, I'm my own thing. I'm gonna do what I choose to do. So be it.
And the traders, like the trader families who used to own these ships, like, was it a pretty easy choice for them to be like, oh, like, well, you know, or was it? I guess kind of the thing is you've got a dragon flying around, and the dragon says, "Hey, they're my dead kin. They're not yours anymore." Like, and you're kind of just like,
It seems
okay.
like it.
And to be fair, like the way that the live ship families think of it is like there are dead kin.
Mhm.
Like right, like they're like live ships are part of their family too. So
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think the book mentioned any kind of like particular like awful times where the family's like, well, we kind of still need you to be our slave ship now, you know.
Yeah.
I don't remember a scene like that.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that happened. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. And I think a lot of them it said they helped out with like the whole new project, right? The whole dredging and
Yeah. I mean, it would be interesting. They said explicitly that there were some cocoons that never got like finished, or that there were some serpents that died in the cocoons or whatever. So that's guilt-free, ethically sourced wizard wood.
No, the dragons eat it.
The dragons would eat it.
For
Yeah,
the
to get the memories.
because they're cannibals. Yep. Very nice.
Yeah, they are reduce, reuse, and recycle.
Yeah, especially because like they can't spare the memories at this point because there's so few of their population that they need to recycle the ones that die to get the dragon memories that they have in them.
True. Yeah. Interesting.
A scene that we didn't get that I wish that we got was Rain's older brother, Balder or something. I don't remember his name. I want like him to eat crow that dragons are.
I wanted to call him Bentley.
Bentley.
But he was like, dragons aren't real, and you're crazy for thinking there's a dragon in there. And now he's like, Rain's gonna be king of the dragons. Like, I just want him to eat crow a little bit.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
That expression is so mean to crows. Why? Why you eat crow? Or maybe eating crow is nice. Maybe they're tasty.
Hello, that's even meaner to the crow.
Yeah. It's one of two ways. It's either crows taste bad and therefore it's a bad thing to eat them, or they taste good and like
if they taste okay.
And then it's mean to the crow anyway. It's a weird expression. I don't get it.
Let's see, who else have we? I'm trying to think about what else happens in this book. Because, oh yeah, the satrap. That's what I wanted to talk about.
Oh my god!
Oh my god, the satrap. Fuck. Yeah, we skipped over
I was
like
thinking of this earlier because like when we were talking about Kefri, I was like, every evil character's name starts with a K except Cosgo.
Yeah,
Which is a C.
yeah, close
Yeah,
enough.
Which
honestly.
I think that was an editing mistake. Honestly, it should have been Cosgo with a K.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's very funny that Rain is like, oh no, Malta likes the satrap. Like, they would be a good pair. Whereas we know where we're like, she hates him so much. I mean, she feels responsible for him in like a parent-child's kind of way.
Mm-hmm. In a I gotta care for this person, otherwise I'm fucking dead way.
Yeah, God, with that when they're like adrift on the river, like, and they drink the water, and it's like, oh, and then
Keki dies.
Keki dies, and she like tries to teach Malta how to survive in the last days, and then like, oh man, yeah, Malta's on her own pretty much.
They get picked up by pirates, and they get picked up by Charleston. They get like, I mean, Malta has some.
We also get direct experience of the Charleston pirates. I completely forgot that. Yeah.
I think it's fun that Tintaglia was also helped by Rain. Like, it felt like their deal was, you help me find Malta and I'll help you find your dragons. But Malta was where the serpents were. And so it helped Tintaglia to help Rain. Like, Tintaglia never would have found the serpents if she hadn't been helping Rain.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of serendipity in that sense of like how their fates were tangled together.
Rain would have been like, yeah, I'm going to hold your entire race hostage for my girlfriend. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Like, when I first read it, I was like, oh my god, Rain. Yes, do it. Get
That's love.
Back. Yeah, and then this time I was like, you fucking idiot. Oh my god.
Don't be a jerk, Rain.
He's so emo for like most of the book.
He really is.
Also, like, asking him not to be a jerk to the dragon, who is also like, I'm just gonna kill you all. Is that cool?
Look, honestly, they kind of deserve it.
She doesn't like. I think that there are times where she leverages that, but then she does try to be like, y'all, guys, you're inferior beings. Can we work towards my benefit, please?
And she has every right to be angry and literally murder anybody that she wants, considering like what they did to all of the other dragons. And they were going to kill her too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
But did they know that they were killing dragons when they were making the ship?
Yes.
Because they dumped the deformed dragons out because they think the dragons are long dead.
Well, but some of them
weren't like dead.
Some of them like they watched them die as they like ripped them out of the cocoon.
Yeah.
So for sure, like Tintaglia could kill them all, and I'd be like, yeah, that reads. Like, that makes sense because they, like, the horrible things they did to all of her kind.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't put it together that, like, cracking open the eggs, they're like, oh, there's a living embryo. Oh, it's dead now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they, like, saw that the first time they did it, and they were like, let's keep doing it.
Gotta make money somehow.
This wood is gonzo. This wood's great.
I wonder how they figured out that like wizard wood had magical properties. Because I think I would jump to the dragon and be like selling dragon parts or whatever.
Well, I want to know what they did to the bodies. Did they just cook and eat them? Because food is like kind of scarce in the Rainwild sometimes.
I think
did they just like have a bunch of dragon meat?
I think if they ate it, they would have been noticing changes.
They were.
Yeah.
They did, right? Well, they've all got, quite a lot of.
Well, I think that's just proximity to the Elderling city and the cocoons and stuff.
I think it would have been pretty dramatic if they were eating like dragon meat.
Considering some stuff.
We don't some stuff, like some spoilers, some later stuff, or
We won't tell you.
because it's not been
we will say
established what
nothing
happened
else
to the dragon.
further.
No comment.
No further comment.
I thought it was a pretty good scene where Rain like tries to get food for Tintaglia,
Hmm.
and she's like, "What do you mean you were getting food for me?"
Yeah, it was cute.
And he's like, "Well, I want you to like have strength and stuff and be fed and stuff." And she's like, just like question mark.
Yeah. Collective interest? What? No. That is very fun. I really do enjoy both the way that this book portrays characters with very clear blind spots and like things that they refuse to see or do not see or like think about a certain way, but then also as like a fantasy thing, it's always very tasty for me for like, oh yeah, this deity of like some domain or this like creature has a very specific just like this is my like tunnel and I don't understand the other things outside of it. Just because it adds a lot of cool dynamic moments like that where they
Provides an opportunity for development.
Alex, your cat, like, I thought your image was frozen because the cat was just like so still.
I have windows right out there. She must be looking at something. What is it?
Oh,
What is it?
She moved.
She does look like taxidermy right now. I swear she's alive. I swear she's a real thing.
Yeah, just the fact that she doesn't visibly breathe is pretty impressive.
She's just real little.
Yeah, real little. What's her
She's
name?
the dragon.
Her name's Kali, but I call her Chicken Nugget or Bean.
Chicken nugget.
These are all good.
Yes.
Kali,
She's just a
chicken
little
nugget. Bean.
chicken.
I love hearing like the silly names that people have for their pets.
Nobody actually calls their pets by their real names, by their like legal government names.
Unless I'm like mad at Frodo.
Jared's like, hello?
Do you?
I named my cat Millie, and I call her Millie. What?
No, you did not name your cat Millie. You named her Chamomile, and you call her Millie.
So that's a
Wait,
nickname.
really?
But her legal government name that I put on the paperwork is still Millie. But yeah, it's also technically Chamomile, which is the mispronunciation of chamomile tea. Which is just a good meme. Yeah.
I mean, we've got a cat named Charlie, and I call him Chucky Ducky Darling. So.
What?
I love that.
You've never told me about Chucky. What?
Chucky Ducky Darling.
My favorite actor, Chucky Ducky Darling Chaplin.
That's right.
I love that.
Amazing.
Is there anyone we haven't covered?
Well, people have complained about Kefri a lot, but like she actually, I don't think does like too much bad shit in this book.
We do kind of complain about her in this book precisely because she doesn't do anything. Where she's like,
yeah,
she's like, she almost starts like redemption arc, and then it's just like disappears.
Then she sucks again.
Well, I guess at the end of last book, she's like, "I'm gonna go on a spy mission back
Which
to
never
the
ends up
town."
happening.
Then she just doesn't. And then
Straight
she's
up
like,
doesn't happen.
Selden looks and sounds different, and
She's racist.
sounds like the lesser people.
Yes.
So I want him to go
He's
live
like,
with
he
them.
looks gross now. He's like that
Yes.
dragon kid.
She's like,
That's
I
not
wish I
what
could
she's
look at
sends
him
him away
again.
to the Greenwild.
To
She's
be
like,
fair, he is kind of
Spooky.
he's acting
he's
weird
now, yes. You still love your weird kids.
She basically doesn't like him anymore because he has scales.
Yeah, because
What?
she's racist.
Wait.
I don't remember any.
I don't think I picked up.
We
I
are
don't think I
cultural
interpreted that.
haters
one.
over here. We pick out every single flaw of hers.
Yeah.
Is it just that she wanted him to be fostered somewhere, or what? Like,
So,
felt that there
Ronnie
was a...
Kupris like offered to let him stay with them or live with them or something like that.
Yeah,
and
while she went and did shit.
Kefria like jumped on the opportunity. She's like, yeah, sure, go.
And then
She doesn't want to bring him on her spy mission. She thought she was
Yeah,
going
he
on.
like is kind of
of her perspective, she says like, I want him to go live with them.
Yeah.
Because it's a
she
good
says
option.
stuff that he looks weird. She says stuff about his appearance, and then she's like, yeah, he should go.
Yeah.
But him staying with them is also like that means he's gonna get more scaly. So like I
Yeah.
think she's just kind of like, yeah, you know,
It's the right
my
choice
son,
for
something's going on
Sheldon.
with my son, but also you can still have him and make him more scaly. That's fine.
It's the right choice for Selden, but I just think any of her children getting away from her is always the right choice for them.
Yes.
Wow.
I mean,
But she tries so hard to help with she and Ronica communicate so much better and like are able to figure some stuff out.
and she
like,
also takes like the traitor mantle for her family more seriously and reflects on like, man, if Kyle were actually to come back, I don't think that I would still want him, which is
Yeah.
development.
It's a lot of good introspection about like her past failures to figure out what's going on.
I think
Yeah.
it's interesting that everybody compares Wintro to Althea, saying like, oh, they look exactly the same, they act similar, you know, they're like each other but in the other gender. And we like never see Wintro have any piece of Kefria or any piece of Kyle. He's kind of just Althea, which is interesting because Althea is not one of his parents.
And it is kind of interesting in how like Amber was meant to be with Wintro and instead kind of meanders her way to Althea, which I guess we haven't actually talked about that, which is that Amber doesn't actually end up meeting her catalyst until the very, very end in this one.
Yeah, and then she's like, "Oh, there he is." Well, okay, I guess everything's kind of resolved, though.
Seems like he's got it figured out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is definitely has interesting implications in terms of
Right
how everything played out the series.
Because in theory, the way that we're told that it works is they find the catalyst and they like make sure that the through the catalyst events transpire in the correct way. But if a lot of the events happened without any interference from Amber, on the catalyst anyway, then that either means this is not the right way for things to go, or the best way, the way to nudge the wheel in the right direction, or it means that the search for the catalyst was enough in like modifying events, because she does do like Amber does like nudge things in the right direction a lot, with like purchasing Paragon and like all this other kind of stuff. So one of those two things is probably correct, but it'd be pretty scary if it's like, actually, this is the doomed timeline /
I think it's so interesting that Amber at the beginning of Ship of Magic is like down at the docks looking for a 9-figured slave boy, and like obviously she's not going to find him because Wintrow's not that yet. So like maybe he had to go through all of these things in order to become the catalyst that she needs. And since she was there too early, everything happened as it should have anyways.
I see. Okay, maybe in the coming years, Amber like will have an opportunity to influence the catalyst because he's now the catalyst.
She did do one big influencing thing where she's like, "Go to Edda. She needs you. Her child needs you."
Yeah, she did get a little creepy there for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget like the exact line, but she gets real prophetic there.
Like after Kenneth dies, basically.
Yeah.
No, like she meets Wintro, and then there's like a specific like encounter.
And this makes me wonder, like, we have an heir to the Ludluck family now with Edda's kid, and so will that kid end up claiming Paragon because he's of the family ship?
I think as long as Vivacia is still around, they probably won't like need Paragon. And Paragon, I don't know, would want to like be a pirate.
Right. Well, we don't know what this kid wants to do. Maybe he doesn't want to be a pirate, but he's kind
if
of
you're raised by the Queen of the Pirate Isles, I feel like you kind of have to be a little pirate king, right?
I don't think so. Wintro was going to be a little priest kid, and his dad was a terrible guy. So you don't have to be. We don't know anything about this kid.
Yeah, and I think in that very scene where Amber and Wintro are talking, there's a really like one of my favorite things, which is like when Wintrow calls the child Edda's child, and Amber's like, everyone else called him Kenneth's child. You call him Edda's kid, and I think that's sort of like the point, right? Is to for Wintrow to be there to raise him as Edda, like literally Edda's child, essentially. Because yeah, that was the vibe I got from it.
Where does this quote come from that Alex you posted in the chat? This
That is from chapter 42, or no, chapter 24. It was episode 42, chapter 24 of Ship of Destiny. And Kefria is letting her kid leave. That's letting Selden go.
So is Kefri the one saying you let me go?
I think Selden says that.
Selden said.
And then Kefria's like, oh, he's like okay with this. So like I can actually be fine with letting my ugly kid go.
How does that damn her again? Like
Because she
like,
doesn't want him
super
around because it
relieved.
makes her uncomfortable.
She's like, oh, thank God he's leaving.
Yeah. But she didn't want to be like
sounds like she's having a hard time accepting a necessity. Like I don't want my
on a less like extreme note, I think that she's sort of like there is this level where she wants her kids near her, but she also sort of has not been really raising her kids, and I think there's definitely a degree of like she feels responsible for them, but also has not been doing right by them in some degrry, and so I definitely read that in this.
She has forgotten about Selden so many times. She's like, "Oh, where's Selden now?"
We're to the point where we're like, "Is Selden alive or dead?" We have no idea for the first.
The nanny is raising him.
Yeah. Well, look, I think that this line is Kefria is recognizing her failure and being like, "This is going to be better for my kid." And also now I don't have to feel bad about it.
I think Kefri is like,
also I don't have to feel bad about it.
I'm off the hook. I don't have to raise any of my kids because I didn't do a great job before.
Yeah. And probably
and all ugly and scary now. Wintrow wasn't a finger. If he still had his tattoo, she would think he was ugly too.
The kid that she had the strongest hand in raising was Malta.
And she was
Malta
horrible.
was horrible under Kefria. Like Malta thrived once she got away from Kefria.
Yes.
Okay. To be fair, lots of it was Kyle's undue influence.
I think
on
so
her
too.
stuff.
Yeah, I definitely.
Kyle was never around.
But
right,
he
but
she was his favorite.
She takes a lot of what Kyle says to heart, and I think the issue is Kefria's also like not very around for Malta, even though she raises her the most, if that makes sense. Like I think like she internalizes what Kyle says, and then Kefria never really pushes back on it ever.
There was a bit of the stuff where it was like Malta was like, but Dad promised this, and then Kefria like folds immediately, right? Like on pretty much everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Malta was just Kyle. Like she had so much of Kyle in her and none of Kefria in her. And then instead of becoming a dick like Kyle did, she went through that hardship to become.
She did also. She internalized a lot of what
all of her
Kefria said about Althea, though. Like lots of her animosity for Althea comes from what Kefria said about her.
Yeah, most definitely.
I actually think Malta was most like Althea. Mm-hmm. Like if Althea would have been forced to stay at home
instead of going on
to like channel her energy, so she would have been like a spoiled. Like ultimately, Malta's just like thirsty for attention and bored and very smart and not like challenged in a productive way.
And very, very hungry for a destiny of like the variety she's been taught is appropriate for her, right?
Yep. And I think Althea would have been much the same way if she had been raised the way that Malta did. The difference is that Althea gets to like go be adventurous.
If I remember rightly, I think that Althea literally has that thought.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think Malta's very much like Kyle. I think she just is more like Althea, but under different circumstances. And she clings to Kyle much the same way that Althea clung to Ephraim. Mm-hmm. The main difference being Ephraim didn't suck major dick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that in clinging to Kyle, she sort of does retain, like I think that as a person at her core, she is like very Althea-ish, but she does like, her personality is like cobbled together from like Bingtown Society, Kefria, and Kyle, and then she like, as she comes into her own, she Althea's it.
Yeah, I don't think that I connect Althea and Malta very much. I feel like they're coming from very different places societally. I think they both have the same traits of like, gotta go get this done because I don't trust anybody else to do it.
Gotta flirt with Brashen.
Yeah,
Ooh, that was yucky.
Oh my god, yeah.
But I feel like Malta bought so much into Kyle's worldview, and had to unlearn that and relearn how to use those strengths in different situations. And so she like took the stubbornness that Kyle gave her, because she never really vibed with Althea. Like, what, did she get that from Kefria too? Like, all of Kefria's kids' greatest strengths were Althea's traits? Weird. I think that Kyle had that stubbornness in him too, and I think that he had that vision to go and like make the live ship profitable. The problem was that he was a terrible person. And so I think that Malta inherited like those same like tenacity and attitude and stubbornness, and then she just like had the opportunity to develop them in a way that didn't make her into a terrible person.
I guess, but I also think that like, if there's one trait that describes the Vestard family, it is stubborn. Like all of them, like Ronica, Althea, Winthrop. I honestly think that she gets her stubbornness from Ronica, and I think she also grows a lot when Ronica forces her to be like, "You're going to do the books now." And
I also think she hates Ronica because it's like you always butt heads with like the parent you're most like when you're growing up. Because it's like you're too much alike. So you don't vibe with each other.
Well, and I think as a parent, you get frustrated with the kid because you see so much of yourself in them, and you're like, if I could only steer you in the right direction, you could avoid the mistakes I made.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man, maybe you're right, and Kefria doesn't contribute anything to anyone.
I think Wintrow's a lot like Kefria.
Yes, that's why Wintrow pisses me off sometimes.
They're both like very like, things are happening to me and I can do nothing.
Yep.
Yeah.
They always want to play the victim.
And I think there is like a degree of like, we've had time to sit in all of the stuff that Kefria does that's bad, and then realize how little she actually does that to redeem herself. But she isn't like, I don't think she's the actual like devil or whatever. I think she's just aggressively aggravating in a way that's really hard to deal with when you're rereading. Where it's like when you know
she's not going to go anywhere.
On my first read.
Exactly. When you know she's not going to go anywhere, and you have to grapple with that, it's like reading all of the points where she could have made a turn. It's like,
it's so frustrating.
I understand that Kefria has done dirty by the writing more than anything else. Like, I think that she like, by all rights, she should have had some degree of, if not a redemption arc, I wish that she'd like talked to Althea and like they had a conversation about that, about like Kefria's influence on her. But like, you know,
such is the way of things. I do think she could have been given a few moments that would have changed, I think, a lot of the framing around her and like made things pay off a little bit better. But
yeah, I agree.
Such as it is. We haven't actually talked about Cerula very much in this book. She's kind of like a villain. Cerula is like she's a direct opposition
she's a villain,
to
but
Monica.
She gets better.
She's a villain. Yeah, she's like in a rough spot and is like doing her best to survive and draw power to herself, which is just not what
I really love the
needs
chapters
right
where
now.
like, we get like Yeah, we get like Veronica's point of view where she's like, this woman is scared and that's dangerous. She's like, she's willing to do anything to hold. And then you get Cyrilla's point of view, and Cyrilla's just paranoid as a motherfucker. She's just seeing shadows everywhere. It's just
Yeah.
And I like and Cyrilla is like not a good person for lots of the book, but I also like in a way where you get where she's coming from, and I love her like eventually
You can
coming to
see
terms
her
with
thought pattern and why every step she takes is the one that she does.
And you feel a bit bad that she's been manipulated by powerful men like forever, and you know, she finally finds a place where she thinks that she can have power, and it's a place that she likes, and then who's there but Road Cairn to try to be a manipulative man again.
Right. She like looks for protection, looks for like security.
She looks in all the wrong places though.
And she also like there is that element of like and it, like I love like the thing where it's not just that, but it's also that she comes into this from a position of privilege and expectation where she's like, yeah, I've been dreaming about Bingtown the whole time, so I should have it. Bingtown should be mine. Bingtown is my sanctuary.
The only example of a ruler that she knows is the way the satrap acts, and that's clearly not a way that makes Bingtown happy. So her acting similar to his, the way that she comes off trying to be like him, just makes them more upset and distant from her, and she's not getting that for a while.
Right. She tries to like she's like, I'm gonna escape Jamalia and come here and build a new life by leveraging the power of Jamalia to force them to allow me to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, she's having a rough time.
Veronica acts as a good kind of reality check for her to be like, we don't do that here, actually. And you're doing this wrong, actually. And like, I don't think that they hate each other. I mean, I think, doesn't Cyrilla save Veronica's life by being like, hey, I'm going to have this conversation really loudly so that you need to know you can leave. Like, they're allies, kind of, who are at odds with each other. And kind of at the end of it, doesn't Veronica say, like, you know, you could like have your own house and like be a, I don't know if she offers her tradership status, but she's like, you can still stay in Bingtown. You can't rule it, but you can be here.
I think that there's this shuffle around in the epilogue, which is honestly a little confusing, but it was like in the government of Jamalia, Malta figures out like basically, hey, we're gonna need some like delegate or something for Bingtown. Like that may as well be my mom. And then her mom's like, I'm busy, and Kefri's like, I'm busy. So then
so let's just give the power back to Cyrilla.
Yeah, she does. She ends up being like a dignitary in some senses.
And that way that she is put in a position where she no longer has to like fear for her position so much. And that relief is pretty cool.
Okay. Is there anything else in terms of characters, moments, scenes?
I'm good. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. In that case, you know what's coming. All of our rereaders, this is your time to get a drink to hide your face. We're going to do predictions for the next trilogy. And just sort of like you already touched on it, like when asking about like how much time has passed. How's the world different? What's going to happen with Fitz and the Fool reuniting? What's that deal all about?
What even is the story going to be about?
Yeah, what even is the story going to be about?
It's a very difficult prediction point, right? Because the threads are wrapped up for the most part, right?
Yeah, we don't have a lot of rising action to go off of. We've got the crown, the rooster crown. I don't know what
Well,
they're gonna do.
what stuff wasn't resolved at the end of the first trilogy?
Yeah, Farseers.
I don't know. I don't remember what was and wasn't resolved, and what I just can't remember happened. Because it was over a year ago. I mean, Burrick and Molly raised a kid together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. They raised Fitz's kid Nettle together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We never
Fitz
learned.
has 2 kids. God damn.
Yeah.
And takes care of neither of them.
Baby mama.
What he has 2 kids, 2 kids that aren't his, that he doesn't take care of, and then he takes care of someone else's kids. So
Yeah.
Amazing.
He's got powerful sperm. I don't know.
God. Okay.
Your genes.
The thing that we don't learn what's involved in forging at the end of the first trilogy. So we don't know how all the people were forged. There's tales of this Keeble Robred and the Pale Woman and this ghost ship, and all of that is just sort of.
Oh yeah, we never we see the ghost ship once, and then we never
Yeah, like the ship with the white sails, or I guess they all have white sails, but like the white ship.
The white ship, yes. And we don't get any resolution on any of that. So that's
I just assumed that when Verity saved the world, he just went and took care of all that.
But I think that
I also
those are sort of like the outstanding question marks, I think, that are left at the end of the first trilogy.
And the
which,
Seven
like,
Kingdoms
most
don't
prominently
have...
is like the nature of forging, because that's like such a big threat, and there's still not an understanding of what caused it.
All of the like wizard-made dragons or whatever, like the dragons that help save the 6 duchies.
They went back to the Grove, and they're chilling. Or
they're chilling. They're sleeping again. Okay.
Yep.
Where's Night Eyes?
Night Eyes is
in the cabin with Fitz.
Good.
He came back.
Nice.
Yeah. As long as Night Eyes is good, we're good.
Yeah. He is my priority.
Same.
Well. Yeah, loose threads for that. So the raiders could still be a thing, or at least the whatever like magic or artifacts they've found that, because that leads it towards the Elderlings as well, right? They're called the Elderlings in this, right? The old species. That clearly leads to some magic that they used to have, and in fact, did we get some? I feel like either Amber or someone else was saying. I feel like I remember reading something about like a clue about where they might have found that, like something in the icebergs or like something's frozen. But maybe I'm just fully hallucinating.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
What they found? Wait, found what?
I thought we were given like some lore either by Amber or someone else about like the nature of forging, like that they found, like the raiders found stuff frozen in the ice from before or something like that.
There was something at the end of the first trilogy, but let me see what it was, so I don't like accidentally give away more than was actually there. In the meantime, keep going while I look for this.
Other threads. So like the kingdom, the 6 duchies are like in a pretty good spot overall, but they need some time to rebuild and like things like that. And maybe they've been given a few years. It seems like some.
Did Regal die?
Yeah. He got killed by the little weasel.
Yeah, what was his name? It was like not Little Ferret, but it was something like that.
He called his like person Big Ferret.
That was the cutest thing in the world.
I don't think he had a name. I think Fitz just called him Small Ferret.
Maybe you're right.
Super cute. I think we're gonna learn more about the connection.
The wit?
Yeah. Yeah, like because it kind of said, like, didn't Fitz spend some time at a place where a lot of people had animal companions, and they're like, we can teach you how to do that, and he's like, I don't have time. It seems like
I gotta go kill my uncle.
Yeah.
That's
a good point.
Black Wolf.
Yeah, but maybe if he like went back there in the meantime, or is gonna go back there again.
That's a great point, because like, I mean, Fitz has got some crazy main character stuff going on with being like skilled and witted, right? That's like some classic. Oh man, the protagonist is the avatar. He's got the things, and also now 2 young children also are out in the world who are probably both witted and skilled. And in any case, yeah, I think it would be really cool if he developed the wit and like learned a lot more about it, because he was very much winging it, and like some of the consequences of that, of him like being a wolf for a while, just like going feral for a while, like that kind of, there was a dynamic there, which maybe if he learns about it from these other people, he can like learn to curb that, or like understand that a little bit more. Knowing that like there are dragons, like given the threads of this series of books with like, oh, dragons are like a thing that the people of the past carved themselves in the image of and put their memories into, as like an honoring of these real dragons who just exist and like have a cycle of death and rebirth and all this cool shit. Them being back, like how will those 2 things interact? Fitz, I remember there was a main thread where like he was feeling it, like teased that he wanted to go carve a dragon, right? Which we think would kill him, right? Like that's the kind of,
it's basically
they already did, yeah.
Yeah, he's basically saying, yeah, he feels compelled to go carve a dragon, but it's basically suicide by skill.
Well, Fitz is just suicidal. That's what it is. It's not that he like wants to go and be a dragon. He just wants to go and not be.
I thought it was like both that, and I thought it was the suicidal, but plus the like addictive nature of the skill, right?
Yeah, I think
because he keeps going like skilling out for connection because he's in self-imposed exile.
That's a good point, actually. Is he going to, in his sensory reaching outness, connect with Tintaglia or one of the other real dragons?
That'd be cool.
Because Tintaglia showed a huge aptitude for the skill, just like being able to reach out and find Malta and things like that.
Also, sorry, I cut you off, Leah. What are you going to say?
I was just going to say, on some level, I think all skill users are drawn to that quarry to carve a dragon. That's why there's that song.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 wise men went to Jompe or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh, there's also the river of like pure elemental skill.
Yeah, the silver.
The silver. That's pretty nuts. That's some. I do love a good magical like radioactive material.
I thought the characterization in this trilogy was funny. Of like, oh, the six duchies are barbarians. Like they're rough people and they like treat their women equally, which is weird.
They don't even ask for their windows.
Right.
They don't even have slaves.
Yeah.
They've got like serfs, and like that's just not the same.
Like feudalism is gross.
They let women rule.
Wacky people.
Truly wacky. And then the 6 duchies are like, yeah, the mountain people are super weird. Like communists or something. Like it's pretty fucked up. They're like nomadic-esque kind of, you know.
Wait, so
they all share the buildings.
The Mountain Kingdom is communism. The 6 duchies is feudalism, and the southern part that this trilogy is in is capitalism. We've got all the kids. They're all, we got all the economic models.
We got the kids.
And what has Charles said?
Yeah, it's just worse feudalism.
Chaos.
Worse feudalism, yeah.
Imperial, maybe? But they're not. They don't seem to be very expansionist. They're mostly just like trading, but with more.
Yeah, I think
they're constantly trying to push into the 6 duchies.
Yeah,
they're trying to take over. What is it, Shoke's duchy?
Yeah, I think
they've just been beaten back so many times that they sort of learned better at this point. Yeah, so we have some sense that whatever next step exists, dragons will have to be necessary. Like the return of dragons to the world is just such a big event that it has to impact what happens next. And so
I think their presence is literally going to draw Fitz out of like his kind of, I guess stupor, or like, he's going to be like, oh, like that there's something out there. I gotta check out what that is.
I'm imagining a scene between Fitz and Tintaglia where he sees her and he's like, did somebody go carve a dragon? And she's like, that's literally the most insulting thing I've ever fucking heard. I was not carved. I was hatched. Get your facts straight.
Amazing. Yes, perfect.
Because I think that she like says something about like the fake dragons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because she mentions that essentially the Elderlings used to like try to carve themselves in their image and would go into the dragons, which is it's like it was basically like an art form for them. And she's like, "That's cute.
Yeah.
You want to be us? You could never." But
it's like, oh yeah, what you gave all of your life experiences and channeled it into like a little statue. Dog, you don't even have like a billion lifetimes stored in your brain. What are you even doing?
Yeah.
I guess, what do we think has happened with the six duchies in like the because we sort of have an idea of like, okay, the dragons are here, Fitz is here. What has happened to the world around Fitz while he's been ignoring it?
Well, the Kettrican's kid has been born, presumably, and is now a little kid in the castle. I don't know how old Fitz's kid was that Starling gave him, but presumably he's grown up. Like all the kids and babies and whatever have grown by however many years.
They're all like early teens, I think, at this part of the series.
Mm-hmm.
In the Six Duchies, there was that whole tension between like the seaboard kind of duchies and the inland ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because the seaboard ones were getting fucked up, and the inland ones were like, we don't need to deal with that. Like, what's the big deal? The one that the capital was like getting moved to and stuff like that. What was that one's name? The inland one?
Started with a T.
I thought it started with an F.
Oh, maybe
I thought it started with an F too.
F sounds right.
I'm gonna look up six duchies.
Like Ferris or something.
It's not Pharaoh or anything.
No, it was Pharaoh and Tilt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, so we were like
Stokes and Ripon are the like seaside duchies.
Mm-hmm.
So we're missing one.
So Pharaoh is like close-ish to the mountain lands, and it seems like despite with Kettrican on the throne, right? It seems like that there's a path there for more collaboration or like peace and trade between the six duchies and the mountain kingdoms, which like could be kind of cool. And
also, with the death of her brother, she's like the sacrifice. So I think like she's kind of got to run both.
That is actually pretty wild.
7 duchies.
Yeah. But
yeah,
I wonder, so we keep it as the 6 duchies.
Is she even going to be able to like do that? Like be the sacrifice for the
Well, what if when her child becomes of age, she leaves the 6 duchies to the kid and goes back to the mountains to be the sacrifice?
Well, I don't know that because I think that her like immense loyalty and like love for Verity wouldn't let her do that.
Yeah, also like the practicality of like leaving your kid with a bunch of advisors, like in the
six duchies. Never go wrong.
And stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it could be like an older thing, like if the kid and her are much older and she's like, oh, it's kind of getting time, I'm getting on in years and I kind of want to go back to my mountain people to like be with them. And she could, if her kid had like become a full adult, she could leave him then. Maybe it wouldn't be right as a part of age, but I could imagine her like going back to the mountain kingdom in her later years to be sacrificed for her people.
Totally. Will she have the chance though? We'll see.
I forgot about Ketchikan completely. I liked her. She was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
She's
always liked her.
sick. She's super dope, and she's one of the big reasons I'm excited to go back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So Pharaoh kind of wanted to like the six judges were kind of falling apart because the inland ones were like, we don't want anything to do. It seems like that is pretty much resolved. There's no really loose end there with Pharaoh still wanting to be its own thing or anything like that. Like,
To be fair, like they didn't really have a choice because like Regal died, the True Queen came back, and it was like they couldn't really be like, yeah, we still want independence. And I think there's a question of like, just because one man dies, does everything that he fostered fall apart just that easily?
that there was those aspects, but I think there's also like the soft power of like, hey, if there's like they're not on the if Ketchikan is still sacrificed for the mountain folk, then like Pharaoh is here, mountains are here, and like the rest of the successors there, they're kind of in the middle. They can't really like get. They just don't. They don't have any really wiggle room. And also they're probably benefiting quite a bit from the new like age of the new like era of potential trade up the mountains and things like that. So yeah,
Makes sense.
Well, I've put in for the new book at my library, and slowly my law school will have all of Robin Hobb's books.
Yes.
Her
That is
entire
ready.
bibliography.
yes, I should also go put a hold on that.
Alternatively, if either of you want to read it digitally, I could just send you my copy. But you know.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer actual copies.
Yeah, and unfortunately Jared prefers audiobooks, so you know.
That's right.
I mean,
Audiobooks are rough.
I did read the whole first trilogy on your bootleg digital copies.
Mm.
So
Well, no, my perfectly legal digital copies. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I mean, the thing about audiobooks that like I basically do all my reading with audiobooks is because I commute on the bike, and that is my reading time.
Not read while you're riding.
I do.
Audiobooks aren't real books.
Yeah, get him!
I think that these audiobooks are annoying just in their inconsistencies. Like the way that they change the names, like the way they pronounce names changes, I think, every other book or something.
Yeah.
It had the same narrator for the three
Ship of Destinies.
Ship of Destiny, yeah, ones or the Mad Ship, yeah, the ship ones. It was the same three other through, but I'm not sure if that's because I think I got most of them from Audible. So it's like, they have the library and stuff like that. Whereas like if I checked it out from the public library, it'd be a different, like an older recording or something like that, different voice actor, possibly.
That's really interesting because in terms of like when I think about editions for books, I'm all like when I'm just like, oh yeah, it has a different cover, whereas like editions for audiobooks mean so much.
Yeah.
Like they completely change the texture of the entire experience.
What's this next one called again?
Fool's Errand.
Yeah,
Fool's Errand. It
Which,
says
like,
that Fool's Assassin is #1 in series.
No.
Do not.
That's
not the one.
that's a mistake.
That's
Leah made
I
that
started
mistake.
with.
That's the first book of the last trilogy.
Very last. The end of the end.
I see. Shaman's Crossing. That's not it. Okay,
Yeah,
I'll find it later.
Yeah, that's a whole different trilogy.
Yeah, that's
Those are
not
different
within the
series.
realm of the Elderlings.
Huh. Well, yeah, I'll figure this out, but don't need to do it on stream. Cool. Alrighty. Excited for more Robin Hobb. She's certainly accomplished a pretty sick series. It's good.
Do Alex, Leah, do you guys have any spoiler-free ways of talking around what you're most excited for in the next?
I'm not excited for the next trilogy at all. I'm dreading it like
very
pretty
excited to
hardcore.
I miss Fitz so much. So even all of the things that I'm dreading, I'm just excited to get back to him. Like he is my boy and I miss him. I missed him throughout all of live ships, but I loved live ships. But like Fitz is my heart.
I'm looking forward to Rain Wilds.
Yeah. Rainbow is like, I don't know.
Rainbow is strangely
I'm not looking
comforting.
forward to at all.
So here's a question. Are we going back to the single person Fitz narrator?
Yes.
Yes.
I sort of don't like that. I felt like part of what made the ship series so great was that you constantly are getting the dramatic irony of reality versus all of these people's different perspectives. And that was
and having them like
very
clash and collide and everything. It was really cool.
That is fair. I do also think that, like, in the first trilogy, it's hard to get that dramatic irony because we only have Fitz. But I think that now that we sort of have a break and we also have a better understanding of the world.
Now that we realize Fitz is like not a reliable narrator whatsoever, you can like pick around his inconsistencies.
Yeah, and there's definitely, I don't think it's a spoiler to say, but there definitely is like a non-zero amount of like moments where like they pick through, like other characters like pick through his thinking and are like, this is wrong and dumb what you thought now and as a child. And he's like, what the fuck do you mean?
Yeah.
So it is like, there definitely is still that classic Fitz lack of self-awareness, but it is challenged a little bit more. So fingers crossed it still works out.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that there is at least still some kind of tension in that of like, oh yeah, Fitz is not going to pick up on everything that's going on, so it's up to me to kind of like do some piecing together and like, you know, figure around that, which is cool. But
I feel like I don't remember Fitz very well. It's just been so long. So I think that we'll get back into the first bit and I'll be like, oh yeah. Like,
I'm excited for the reunion. It's gonna be
the first bit is the best bit. It's the nicest bit.
Yeah, you better save the first bit because it's all downhill from there.
Yeah,
no, why?
I think that like spiritually, I'm in the same place as Leah, where like I know it's coming up and I know that I'm not emotionally ready for it, but also like some of the best emotional catharsis and just like amazing scenes are in this trilogy. Yeah. So I know these guys like the first book. Personally, I'm like, the first book's cool, but like the second book and third book are what really do it for me. But I'm still gonna enjoy. I'm gonna enjoy it. Especially I think having you guys there to
as first timers.
Yeah, as first timer. I think the first book is definitely one that I'm kind of shrug on myself, like as a rereader, not like in a bad way. I'm just like, there's not as much to sink my teeth into. But then I think doing it as a reread with first time readers is going to be exciting.
Hell yeah.
So don't expect very much for the first book, is what you're saying.
No, it's just
stuff happens in this book. It's just more stuff happens in the other two that I think
like in the Hobb and Hobb book, where
like the
first book in the trilogy
is mostly
like,
set up.
Yeah.
And like, it's always the second book that's the best. And I think it's just, I have very specific like emotional moments where I'm like, this is the passage I will go back and read again and again. So
excellent.
I've now given away that nothing emotional ever at all happens in the first book. So, you're welcome.
Yeah, it's easy listening. Maybe I will pay attention to traffic.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's listening.
Before I get canceled, I was joking when I said that audiobooks aren't real books.
I wasn't.
Fine.
Shit.
Oh gosh. Anand continues to laugh at me whenever I like say weird pronunciations of characters' names for things.
Okay, because my thing is
differently.
Jared, you listen to the audiobook, so you should know the pronunciation. Like I just read. I have no idea how the syllables actually are spelled out, but you're listening to them.
Well, I guess the thing is I mostly forget the entire name, and so I'm just like going for first letter and like.
Yeah, like because we've been reading. Jared's reading Game of Thrones for the first time, and I've been rereading it with him, and then just some of the pronunciations. Well, what was it like?
It's Cat, right? Catherine.
Catherine.
Catelyn Stark?
Yeah.
Oh my
I
god.
thought there was like an R in there. Like, nope.
I mean,
It's
remember
not.
through the whole first book of this trilogy, I thought it was Vivacia.
But see, Ian, you're reading it. You're reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's silly. It's a good time.
Yeah, I'm really excited for all the new names we have in the next trilogy.
I'm excited for
What new characters? That's not right.
Rainwilds with Sinatra.
Sinatra, yeah. There's a character called Sintara who I read her name as Sinatra for the entire series until I came and I did an episode and I referred to her and they were like, "Who?"
Yeah. He still slips up and says it sometimes. It's fun.
So when we get back into Rainwilds, like how many of the characters are going to be the same from the Ship trilogy?
It's pretty much a whole new cast of characters. You get like little hints and like little like asides with some of the Rainwild people or some of the live ships people, but it's mostly like
new people.
All new.
There are some fan favorite returns, but
yeah,
but it's like it's intentionally like a.
It's like cameos.
Probably
it
the broadest new cast out of any series, and I think she gets away with that because there's 4 books.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
I think I read a review online saying like the Rainwild Chronicles should have been a trilogy and not a quadrilogy. Like they felt like it lagged a little and could have been tightened up.
I think it probably could have, but there's like a lightness to it that it maybe would have lost if it was just like crammed together.
Yeah. It's not. I like it as 4 books. It's kind of a different feel from all of her.
It's a lot lighter, yeah, and like it feels weird to call it lighter because of everything that happens in it. I feel like we're implying that it's just a jaunt when no, it is Hobb writing.
It's just able to like have a little bit slower pacing. Like,
yeah,
for sure.
You get a break from the horrible things with like other people's perspectives. So.
Other horrible things.
Yeah.
Wait, the whole world's like in a good state right now. Like everything's fine. How could horrible things be happening?
Yeah,
could horrible? That's not what I'm signing up for.
Yeah.
Wait for Tawny Man to find out.
Yeah.
So there's the next trilogy. What is the next trilogy called?
The Tawny Man trilogy.
Which
refers to the Fool, who's now, as we know, like has ambered up
becoming tawny
skin color. Then there's the Rainwild Chronicles, and then there's Fitz and the Fool, which is the last trilogy.
And then there's the Piebald Prince, which is a short story, and then she also has a little collection called like The Inheritance or something, and that's got a couple of short stories that are like inside the realm of
the Elderlings.
Yeah,
I have not read the short stories, so.
And I need you both to read them so we can talk about them because there's stuff about it, you guys.
She's recently mentioned that she's writing a new book,
a B book,
with an upcoming character. Yeah.
Oh.
So that's in Realm of the Elderlings then, if it's got the same.
Yeah, it's a character that you guys don't know yet, but who shows up in the last trilogy.
Yeah.
And focused on them. Yeah.
Wow.
Which we're like a little bit nervous to get a book.
Yeah. Because every time it means bad things. It means bad things.
Yes. If they're getting a book.
My reaction was I want Robin Hobb to leave that character alone.
I think that was all of our thoughts. I wanted a Patience and Lacey book.
Yeah, like a little
about their misadventures.
That would be nice.
Amazing. Well, I don't know what that means, but y'all have fun with that.
Yeah, look forward to the next book.
Yeah. Excited.
It's been a hot second since I've been doing reading for this. I'm excited to get back into it.
Same.
True.
I'm excited to cram reading in the day before we.
I only finished Ship of Destiny like 2-3-ish weeks ago, so it hasn't been that long since I'm always the last person to finish the book because I read very inconsistently because I'm constantly busy So it takes me a long time to get through these books. Like this last book took me 9 months to read, almost 8.5. But I like them. I'm just slow.
Ye.
You finish them. That's all that matters.
Eventually.
You get there.
Great.
Yar. Wow. Okay, yeah.
I think that this is probably as good a time as I need to wrap up, unless, yeah. But it was dope to get to do this. And for the people who are watching the future, I'll be getting those Ship of Destiny episodes out so you can see how we got to this point, and also some of the crew's thoughts on spoiler stuff that we weren't able to discuss here. But I think, yeah, we'll be getting into, I don't know when, so I'm not going to say, but in the future, we'll be getting into Fool's Errand. I'm excited for that. So,
Heck yeah.
bye.
Alrighty.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye.
I don't know how to